17 million illegals are living in America right now. That's according to a new analysis, an estimate. No one really knows what the number is. It's probably far higher than that. But we do know millions of illegals are breaking into our country every minute of every day of every week, every month, every year, ongoing. And ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, has their hands tied behind their back. When Biden came into office, he restricted what illegals ICE can target to deport. Remember that? Joe told his Department of Homeland Security, so much for securing the homeland, that just being here illegally isn't actually illegal and it's not enough to get you deported. So you can only get the boot if you're deemed a threat to public safety, a threat to national security, or are caught in the actual act of crossing. No wonder record numbers are flooding our border. But a Texas judge blocked it before it was then appealed and went to the Supreme Court. And today, the conservative majority of the Supreme Court ruled 8-1 in favor of Biden. They put ICE back in shackles. All of the Trump picks to the Supreme Court sided with Biden's view. You'd think that's probably not why Trump nominated them. The justice's reasoning was that the states don't have the right to tell the federal government how to arrest people. If they really want something changed, the court said, federally, it has to go through Congress. But Justice Alito, the only one who dissented, said the court is giving way too much free range at this point. That's putting it lightly. Stephen Miller is the founder of America First Legal. Nobody better to talk about on this topic and many. Stephen, what do you make of this ruling?
Well, I was on the phone 2 years ago with Ken Paxton talking about this very issue, and my organization worked alongside the state of Texas to begin initiating so many of these important lawsuits. And so today's ruling is obviously a historic disappointment. And I will say that this underscores that the psychological intimidation campaign that is being waged against the Supreme Court by the radical left is clearly having an impact. Now, it's important to note they just ruled that the state didn't have standing. So they didn't address the question of whether Joe Biden's conduct is illegal or unconstitutional, which it obviously is. It was a giant cop-out. It says, oh, Texas doesn't have the standing to even raise these questions.
Help me out with that, Stephen. How in the world, if any state would have standing, it would be Texas? How do you make the argument that a state being invaded because the federal government won't do their job doesn't have standing in a case?
You can't make the argument. I mean, I could sit here and I could pretend to make the argument, and it would go. The argument would basically be that if the federal government declines to arrest somebody or declines to remove somebody or declines to prosecute somebody, that's a decision that exists only inside of the executive, and states don't have a right to weigh in on that. But here's why that doesn't work. Because every time you tried to deport an illegal alien, that illegal alien gets to have a judge block it. Every time you tried to keep somebody out of this country, California and Hawaii and Massachusetts can run to a court and they can have that shut down. So how can you live in a country where only illegal aliens can get justice and American citizens can't get justice? And I will say one more thing. Listening to Merrick Garland preach about the rule of law, when he is exempted, along with Mayorkas, 99% of illegal aliens in this country from the laws is an insult to the intelligence, honor, and decency of every single American citizen.
You're exactly right, and they're lying to our face. What's left for border states and all states to do? I mean, the wreckage of the last 2.5 years is blatant and laid before us, and I know states are trying. Your organization is trying, but it's an open wound that won't heal.
Yeah, well, we're obviously going to continue the litigation barrage, and we're going to continue working with patriotic states like Texas, like Indiana, like Missouri to keep on fighting. But also, one of the things my organization is doing is we are giving Congress language that they can include in the appropriations bills to shut this down. And the Supreme Court said, albeit in this terrible ruling, that Congress can shut it down by defunding it. So that really is what has to happen in September when those funding bills expire, and that is in September. The last year's budget expires, and you have to pass new funding bills, and the budget has to be appropriated by the House. And so if the House includes, and we provided the language, that says that you cannot use any federal funds to release or permit into the country illegal aliens, that would stop this thing cold.
Stephen, real quick, we're almost out of time, but the House is considering and shuffling around impeachment proceedings on a number of levels, but just stick to immigration. I mean, is this the type of thing, the abdication of our sovereignty, that should lead to the impeachment of Mayorkas and or the president?
Well, again, this ruling makes it clear that that is exactly what has to happen. So if the Supreme Court is saying it's in Congress's hands, then Congress needs to step up. If you can't impeach Secretary Mayorkas over facilitating human trafficking on a grand scale, over facilitating child smuggling on a level never seen before, drug trafficking, an invasion of our sovereignty, the violation of hundreds of pages of immigration law, if you can't impeach over that, then you are saying that any cabinet secretary from now to the end of time can completely disregard the Constitution and the laws of the United States. And if that becomes the norm, then we're not living in a democracy anymore.
Yeah, I hope Republicans step up and play the kind of hardball our republic needs right now. Stephen Miller, thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.